May one enter another person's property without permission in order to retrieve a lost item, an item that fell inside? This case example happens quite often, and we'll give a few practical cases in which this halacha or this question becomes relevant. The children are playing with the ball in the backyard, and the ball hops over or is thrown over to the neighbor's yard. The neighbors aren't home, or even if the neighbors are home, may I jump the fence in order to retrieve the ball? Must I receive permission from the owner? And if I can't receive permission from the owner, either because he's being mean, he doesn't want to give it back, or because he's out of town, he's not home, may I go in myself and take the ball back? Another interesting scenario: if an item falls out of your hand and falls into someone else's yard, such as you're on your balcony and it falls onto a lower balcony, or you're holding your cell phone, it juggles out of your hand and falls smack into the yard of a person's home. Can I retrieve it? Must I receive permission? What do I do if I cannot receive permission? So as we discussed in the previous halacha, it is forbidden to enter another person's property without permission. Doing so is considered stealing, as we discussed, as well as that it's an invasion of privacy, hezek re'iyah, and therefore, of course, you can't enter someone's property without his consent. Seemingly, this prohibition would apply likewise in a case that you are entering to retrieve an item that fell into the property due to no fault of the property owner. And seemingly in this case, one may not enter into the property to retrieve his item until he tries to get consent from the owner of the property. And if he does so, it perhaps is actually considered stealing and invasion of privacy, just as we said in a regular case. Furthermore, even in a case that a person stole something of yours, the halacha is that initially you may not enter into that person's property to take your item because it looks like you're stealing. This rules the Alter Rebbe in Hilchos Gzelo Gneva Halacha 28, based on the Gemara in Bava Kama 27b in name of Ben Bagbag. Thus, however way we look at it, it certainly, according to Shulchanaruch, is forbidden to enter another person's property, even if you're doing so to retrieve your item, until you get permission from the owner, or you try to get permission from the owner. This, however, only applies in a case that your item fell into a gated property or fenced property, which the owner doesn't allow anyone to trespass. However, if your ball fell into the front lawn or into the driveway, which people anyways go through when they need a knock on the door, then certainly you can go on that property even though it's owned by the owner, as the owner is certainly not particular against the public walking over there, as is seen from the fact that it is not fenced or gated and the like. So now what do you do if the owner does not want to return the object? You tried, you learned the halacha, you know the law, you knocked on his door. Listen, Mr. Jones, my ball fell over into your yard, my cell phone fell into your backyard, can you please bring it back to me? What do you do when he says, leave me alone, I'm not giving it back? Which can happen when you have a grumpy person who doesn't want to every single day or week or month return the ball of his neighbor that falls into his yard. Can I take matters into my own hands? So before we discuss what you're allowed to do, let's first give a little bit of attention to this homeowner who is refusing to return the object. According to halacha, a property owner that has an item of somebody else in his property must return it to the rightful owner, and withholding it transgresses several commands. The command of Hashavas Aveda, in this case that the item fell into the yard, and the biblical prohibition against stealing. Furthermore, lahavdil, according to state law, in many countries it's illegal to withhold someone else's object, including a lost item that was found, and one who does so can be charged with larceny or theft by conversion. And this applies even if one's annoyed at how often his neighbor's kids throws the ball into his yard. Nonetheless, according to halacha and lahavdil state law, he must return it or face legal penalties if he does not. So now let's go back to the question. What do you do as the owner of the ball, the owner of the cell phone? The person is either not home or he's refusing to return it. Can you go and into the yard without permission and get it? So this enters into the interesting discussion of what's called Adam Isa Din La'atzmai, which is brought in the Gemara in Bava Kama 27, recorded in Shulchanaruch chapter 4 in the Mechaber, brought in the Alter Rebbe Shulchanaruch Hilchos Gzelo Geneva Halacha 28. that when you know an item of yours is in possession of another person illegally, such as he stole it, or you lent it to him and the time came to return and he's not giving it back, you don't have to go to the courts. You can be your own court. You can place justice in your own hands and retrieve the item from the person, even if it means hitting him and forcibly taking it from him. You're allowed. Now, what about entering his property? Well, the Alter Rebbe brings, and it's brought in the Gemara in the name of Ben Bagbag, that regarding entering the property, we're a little more stringent to not allow it, because it looks like you're stealing. What are you doing sneaking into, climbing over the fence? Looks like you're trying to steal something. So initially we don't allow it. But says the Alter Rebbe, based on Taisvis there, that if other options have been exhausted, you may enter the property and retrieve your item. As Adam Eisa din la'atzmei, regarding an item that he knows belongs to him. And the same would therefore apply in this case. In all cases, the one is unable to retrieve the item that fell into the neighbor's yard. For whatever reason, the owner is out of town, he's not coming back for a month, you're just visiting the city, you're catching a bus, a plane, out in 2 hours, the owner's not home. In all these cases of the like, or of course if the owner illegally refuses to return the item, you may take matters into your own hands, enter the property, enter the yard, climb the fence in order to take it back. Regarding state law, so this may apply according to state law. There's different jurisdictions. It's advisable to discuss the matter first with an attorney if he wants to protect himself from any legal action. But there is room within the law to allow one to enter the property to retrieve his item if he has exhausted all other options. So to summarize, according to halacha, an item of yours fell into a neighbor's yard, you need to ask permission to enter to get it. If you can't get his permission, either due to refusal or due to the owners being out of town, you may enter into his yard without permission to retrieve your item, although it's advisable to discuss the matter with an attorney if you suspect that legal action may be pursuant of you doing so. May we all merit to have a shachin tov, good neighbors that aren't particular and always return even 5 times a day the balls that fall into the yard, and this whole shiloh only becomes theoretical and not practical.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at www.shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.